Hello, folks. You're listening to Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, and coming at you next, this is Kerry, Cassidy with Whistleblower Radio, Project Camelot. So without much further ado, here's Kerry Cassidy. Take it away, Kerry.
Stretched out and purring, waiting for more.
Hi there. This is Kerry Cassidy, Project Camelot, Whistleblower Radio. And our next guest is Paul David Rosenberg. And hopefully we've been able to reach him. He is, he was a producer. I'm not sure what he calls himself now, but I'm very curious to hear. He's a fascinating individual, and he has a whole sort of system that he's trying to, I guess, discover, reveal, etc., for understanding the world, basically. I think that's the most general way I can frame it. But it's been a crazy time. So at any rate, I think that a lot of people will be very curious as to your early days before we branch out into what you're doing now. So do you want to talk about what you did in the early days? Because you have a very fascinating bio, and I think a very inspiring bio for a lot of people. So, and that's part of kind of what you do wrap into your to the story that you're telling. So could you give, spend some time and just describe your background, how you got in the entertainment industry?
In some sense, Kerry, I'm still a producer. I'll always be a producer. And my sort of mission is to teach us that we're all producers, because it's your life. Produce it. It just turns out things are so simple. And the message is that storytelling and knowing your story, your sacred story, and being true to your story is all you need to know. Because the 4 founding fathers that started this country, they were superheroes. And Jesus was a superhero, and we all know his story. But we've lost our story. The Jews have lost the story. The Americans have lost the story. And I've been keeping track of it all mathematically, and I've had these answers since like 9/11, and I keep getting locked up and then killing the system, but like it just keeps killing me. And like I just want one day to sort of tell the world their story. I don't want to have anything to do with anything. I can tell the president his story, and we can fix this entire planet in a day. It's that simple. But like we'll get to that later. But I just believed in like being a champion and wanted to be like an Olympian and tell my story. So I come from a Jewish family, but I wasn't religious. But on my mother's side, they had like suicide, and on my father's side, they had mental illness, and I just wanted to be positive. So my mom died when I was 12, and I just said, that's not going to be my story. But I fell in love with skiing. I grew up in the Bay Area, and the first time I went skiing up in Lake Tahoe, it was like my free spirit woke up. And I kind of think that our psych-consciousness is like a pie with like 10 different slices, and there's a wall between all the 10 dimensions and 3 energy forces, positive, negative, and spiritual energy that moves around and lights up the circuit. But the whole goal of your path to enlightenment is to sort of knock down the walls, right? Like you kind of come up against a wall and you sort of either break through or break down. And then what happens is when you break through, you go crazy for a second. You get a little panic, but there's no such thing as mental illness. After all the dust settles, like your consciousness is expanded. So I just wanted to learn everything and be a student. So the first thing I did was I was the Jewish kid who was the freestyle skier who did the flips and all that stuff. And that was sort of how I learned the world is upside down. And literally, it was like when I first went skiing, it was like I felt a hole get like punched between one of the walls between my mind and my body and my soul. And I spent like every waking moment just trying to like make that hole bigger and get to where my subconscious is, because that's really when you're your best. If it's an athlete or anything, your soul is just your subconscious. It's your metaphysical antenna. And when you sort of go soul first, that's my whole message. The world is sort of mind first, and that's negative. But soul first is where it's the knowing instead of the thinking. And you just know all these answers. And that's why people like all the great people on your show can agree, whereas most people can't, because you're soul first. And so I was on the ski team. I was like 8th in the world in skiing, and then I coached Johnny Mosley, who won the Olympics, and Glenn Plake started extreme skiing. So I love that. And when I'm good at something, I like to do it as good as you can. But if I'm not, I'm as bad as you can be. But after that, my dad always wanted me to go to Berkeley and go to Wall Street. So I did that because that was important to him. But when I got to Berkeley for the first time, because it was after skiing, I got really inspired about learning and what a great school that was and all the diversity. And so I went through the business school and got out at the top of my class. And I kind of went from like athlete to academic just to prove it to my dad. And I hate talking about me. And believe me, like I've sort of had as big a crash and burns as anybody. So like, don't think I think anything about that I accomplished this stuff. But I was top in my class at Berkeley, and I got offers from Goldman Sachs and First Boston and Solomon Brothers, but I also got an offer from Michael Milken down in Beverly Hills, and I wanted to go work for him because I want to be a superhero, and I want to work with the superheroes, but like the system kills all our superheroes. Like that guy was just getting in trouble for the junk bond thing, you know, like that's the guy we should have had fix the money system instead of kick him out. And Lance Armstrong gave back his medals, but he should teach us how to learn how to be, you know, superheroes. Like the system just sort of destroys the superheroes. And, you know, it's like this sad thing where we want to be our best, but they don't understand what that means. And I spent 2 years in New York, and I met Lloyd Blankfein, so I know him, and it's kind of funny what's going on with Goldman Sachs these days. And then I got into Harvard and Stanford and Wharton, but I'd already been to undergrad business school at Berkeley, and I wanted to come back to California, and I was born in Los Angeles. So I ended up coming back to go to USC to the producing program. And then I got started in the film business in 1988, and I worked for Scott Rudin, who's now the biggest producer like that's ever been, and kind of apprenticed for him and was associate producer on The Addams Family. And then I worked for Ray Stark and got a project with Howard Stern, and that's sort of something that I'm trying to sort of capitalize on again now. And then I went to work at Imagine, and at Imagine, I really got in the groove, and I had something to do with Nutty Professor and Liar Liar and Apollo 13, and I was just kind of on fire. But something kind of biblical started happening to me in like 1997. My father had a stroke, and I went to New York because I was a big fan of Harvey Weinstein. I'm not a big fan of Jewish people, even though I'm a Jew. Like, I just think people don't know what that really means. Like, you know, it's not about money. It's not a, you know, it's just it's like Einstein's a Jew and Jesus was a Jew, but like the Jews today, they're something different. But I'm a big fan of Harvey's, and I went to go work for his brother Bob, and we were just starting Dimension Films, and this is important because I'm going to explain why this is important in a second. And I started Dimension, and we bought Scream, and we got Scary Movie, and Dimension took off. But in the weirdest way, like Bob wasn't famous and didn't really have success like Harvey did. And so he sort of, it's his right, but he kind of asked me to leave. Like, he didn't want me there. And it was like heartbreaking because I don't make mistakes and I'm all about momentum. I was using my story. Like, I'm not just a Hollywood producer. I was a Jewish skier, which makes me, you know, pretty cool because Jews aren't necessarily the most athletic. And I got into Harvard. Hollywood.
Okay, but wait. Why did Bob Weinstein want you to leave?
Because he didn't want me to get credit for like being the star of Dimension because he already had that problem with Harvey. He wanted to be the star of his division, and that's fine. He's Bob Weinstein.
So it was a power struggle.
Yeah, but what the problem was, I really did so good that like to get rid of me, he had to say I did so bad. And see, that's what I'm about. Like, I didn't used to yell at people and I didn't used to sue people, you know, because I didn't need to. But once you're betrayed, like when you trust somebody and they're your partner and you're betrayed by them and you're the best and they say you're worst, that's a biblical thing. What I'm about to sort of end up with is all there really is in the universe is truth and trust. And a man's kind of truth and a woman's kind of trust. And a man's truth is everything. And if you take a man's truth, he loses everything. So I'm about to tell the world that all these things going on in the world are flames of lies and betrayal. And if we just sort of, I know how to fix it, like one lie and one betrayal is worse than killing 6 million Jews. Like, we either got to sort of put us all on trial for having a false system and just destroying each other, or we got to forgive everybody. And I mean everybody, from like a Hitler to Osama bin Laden. You got to forgive everybody because it's a false lie, because we're not in that story anymore. But that's what happened to me with Bob Weinstein, and it was kind of heartbreaking because I had to start over, but I wanted to fix that story, and this is going to happen. I'm going to explain. I don't usually talk all about me, but like I'm sort of angry, and I love your show, and I just like I want to use this when it's recorded to sort of change the world on Monday. So if I get too annoying, I hope if you guys give me a week, let me see what I can do with this, because I'm in a big lawsuit and sort of going after some rich Jews. I'm mad at the Jews in New York. I want LA to be the heroes. I think the Jews in LA are beautiful, and we're artists and we're athletes, and I want the LA to sort of be the center.
Okay, but slow down 1 minute. So just so people can follow the sort of through line as how you get from point A to point Z, so to speak. So you left working for Bob Weinstein, and where did you go from there?
So what happened was I'd been an executive, but I hadn't made the jump to producer yet. But I'd started a lot of people, like a lot of famous people. I gave them their first job. And so I said, you know what? It's like they ruined my story because I was always the best at everything. But if I can, maybe I've just outgrown being executive. And if I can now become a producer, I can fix my story. I'm all about the story. And I know how the story ends. And I'm Joseph Campbell. Like, I'm just a little story. And so when I left and I got a movie going right away from a writer I'd given his first job to, who's now like the biggest writer in Hollywood, named John August. And we did this movie called Go, and it was just a little cult movie, but it did really well. And I'm always finding the new people. I put Katie Holmes in her first movie, and I put Melissa McCarthy, who's now become big and has that movie Tammy. She was in that movie. And so all of a sudden I was back, and I got momentum, and I got this Variety's top 10 producers to watch. And I did something smart because I got to go to Cannes, and I just gave credit to all the great producers I worked for. I said, first of all, I'm not scared. Like, I used to do flips. I can't break my neck on the phone. I can't break my neck on the internet. I'm not scared. I just sort of do the truth. But I said I owe it all to the great producers I worked for: Scott Rudin, Ray Stark, Brian Grazer, and Bob Weinstein. Even though he screwed me over, I gave him credit because I kind of know what's going to happen. And I know that, like, that was a message to Harvey Weinstein, because I didn't go to work for Bob. I trusted Harvey. But when when Bob was screwing me over, Harvey was nowhere to be found. And that's one of my, like, the Jews are good. Like, they're smart, but they're sneaky. And it's like, once they sort of do something wrong, like, he wasn't there to save me. And, like, that never happened to me in LA. And I went to New York for him, and that kind of broke my heart. But I went to Cannes, and I did that article, and I'm at this party, and all of a sudden, I hear this booming voice. It's like, hey, Paul, come here. And it's Harvey Weinstein. And he says, you know what? You said classy things about my brother, and we didn't treat you right. And you're going to be a great producer, and I want you to come back. And it was like my father was dying, and I would, like, have tears in my eyes. I love Harvey Weinstein no matter what he does. Like, I'm his biggest fan. And, like, I didn't want to go back, but I wanted to fix my story. I wanted to get my truth back. Because the fact that I went back means I never did anything wrong. And if I could make him rich as a producer, it would be clear that Bob was just a little bit jealous back then. So I went back. But then something even weird happened. And what I'm telling you, none of this is by coincidence, because it's all biblical. Like, my story, we're all biblical. But what happened was they wanted me to have money. They wanted to get me with an investor. So they hooked me up with Karen Lauder, who's married to William Lauder, who's grandson to Estee Lauder. And she had some partner who'd never done anything, who gave me the silly contract, and they wanted to give me $3 million, but they wanted me to be an employee. And I knew the minute they handed me that contract, they were going to betray me, and I was going to make them betray me, because, like, I didn't care about their money. Like, I knew the Lauder name and the Lauder family, because your name, if you're a man, your name is your reputation. And Bob Weinstein sort of hurt my name. And so they don't think Rosenberg's anything, but I know Lauder means something, and I know they think they're these big Jews, but they just sell makeup. So what? And so, like, I sort of knew that, like, this thing was going to end bad, but it became really crazy. I just got married to a young doctor who just moved from Canada, and she's a great girl, but she came from, like, a Jewish mafia family and had a lot of crazy stuff, and she wanted to be good, but she didn't know anybody LA, and we were just married. And right when I was on my honeymoon, like, this Karen Lauder and her partner Marcus Tickerton betrayed me and locked me out of the office. But again, it was like we had $6 Million Man and we had Max Payne, and I got, like, sacrificed for being too good. They wanted it, and the minute once you stink up your story, Kerry, it doesn't work anymore. That's the point.
Okay, well, wait. So what happened? You got a contract, and you signed that contract, I assume, right?
Yeah.
And then why did they lock you out when you went on your honeymoon? That does not make sense.
Okay, you're right. What happened was, it was a 3-year contract, and after 3 years, I got the company and I kept everything, but they put in $3 million. So what they did is they kicked me out after the second year, even though it wasn't legal, so they could keep everything. It was literally like these people who'd never had any success that were like assistants in New York were like reading a comic book about how you sort of do a power play. But the thing is, like a producer, like as a producer when people are screwing you over and how to protect yourself. I mean, Scott Rudin is big and tough and nasty, and so are the Weinsteins. So this little jappy wife and her little assistant were like set up from the beginning. Like the minute they kicked me out, it was like, cool, now I own Estee Lauder. This is going to be fun. But like I just got married and my wife sort of was like loving our story, and we were a Hollywood couple and going to premieres and hanging out with famous people, and all her patients are movie stars. And she had to tell that to her patients like every 60 times a day, and she loved it. But when the story got bad and I was at home working on these lawsuits and fighting everybody, like that story kind of made her crazy. Like she didn't really understand what was happening. I was older and sort of just knew we needed to fight this. And she said I could trust her because I kind of knew. I gave her my car and I gave her my Rolodex. And eventually she was really going to think that like she did it all herself and she was supporting me. But really, like this lawsuit was going to be worth billions. And what happened was, this was crazy. It all happened right around 9/11. And I didn't put all this together till years later. But I was in 3 lawsuits because my stepmother also changed my dad's will while he was dying. And that was kind of about my soul, and the company was about my mind. So basically I got up to heaven, and God was kind of like Walt Disney, and he just said, hey kid, you're out of work. I need you to video things. Something's going to happen in 2012, and you're going to be fine, and just turn your camera on. So I'm basically telling everybody they should film everything, because when there's no truth to the justice system and lawyers lie and doctors lie, videotape everything. So I just started videotaping everything in 2001, our marriage and stuff, and I started figuring out what the truth was. It was like I split the TV between like George Bush, the negative energy dividing us in the war, and John Lennon saving us with the lyrics. And all of a sudden, I just saw positive, negative, spiritual, and I went back in time, and that's when I saw the sacred geometric pattern as kind of the Star of David with a circle around it, and that's called gematria. And what I figured out almost instantly is that God, and was the creator, and he created the universe, but it was like an algorithm. It's like a cosmic computer that was only going to last, 4 billion years and then burn out in 2012. And what 9/11 was really sort of the final act of God in the universe giving us the cosmic codes and saying, you're here, humans, because you need to sort of come up with technology and you need to reboot the universe. And when you reboot it, it's going to go from a 3D program called God to a 12D program called gematria. And I know that's kind of beyond this, but I started teaching this to my wife because she didn't know anything about the truth, and she just didn't really understand, but she wanted to. So I have all these movies of me fighting these lawsuits and me teaching my wife about the truth and being the best husband I can, but in sort of the same way that, men aren't supposed to study Kabbalah unless they're older and married. My wife sort of had a lot of baggage, and she kind of went a little crazy, and she was fighting with me all the time. And so I just asked her to leave. I said, it's not your fault. I'm like Israel. I'm fighting all these people, but she is a nasty person when she fights with me. And I just said, you can't fight with me. I'm fighting everybody else, and it's all about the truth, and you're just going crazy. And so I asked her to leave. And I really think she's helping me, even though we've been in a war for 12 years. But she called the police and said all this stuff about me being violent and crazy, which she had in her past. But I was helping her with all that stuff. It's miserable because I didn't care about the money. I lost my story. So I didn't do much. And I sort of played tennis for a while, and I didn't do much for a while. And I sort of put the whole gematria stuff down because everybody thought I was crazy. But then now we can jump ahead. In 2010, I sort of lost all my money in the stock market. And I kind of knew, when Barack Obama got elected, in some sense, that was sort of he came after 2003. And it's more what he represented. He represented a change. And I was trying to get, these answers to sort of into the system to fix the system, because it's all the system going soul first instead of mind first. But the system kind of got to me, and so I wasn't doing it. But I went to Sedona in 2010 and sort of reawoken my spiritual stuff, and then I came up with goSOULfirst, and I started the goSOULfirst movement, and now there's 25,000 people on it, and what goSOULfirst is, it's not a belief system. It's literally like the whole one thing that everybody's doing when they're awakening. It's like when you remember those little race car tracks we had, the slot cars, everybody wants the fastest, prettiest car and win the race. But that's all what the illusion is. Those cars are just plastic and they don't do anything. There's no power in them. And the track is plastic and the race is not a race. All there really is on those little toy cars is that little slot where the juice is. And that's the matrix. That's the, where your soul is. Your soul is your little Wi-Fi that connects you to that slot. And that's where we're all one. And so if we can sort of come from that source place, that's also the cosmic computers. And so it's all done by math now, but you can literally see what's wrong with the system, and you kind of have to, it's not moving. But if we start doing the math, and the math makes things move, things will start to change. And so whether it's, politics, it's like, why do we have a prison system when we could have a freedom system, and we could just help people before they commit crimes? We don't need to lock people up. And why do we have a government that only one man and one party wins when it divides and destroys everything it touches? All we need to do is realize that the founding father sort of started this thing, but that story's over now, and we need to get every man and every woman inspired. And it looks like the Olympics. In the Olympics, the countries pick their best, and then they compete. And if we were going to do that in politics, let the parties pick their best, and let the elections be about the to-do list. And all of a sudden, things would start moving. Like if we just had a woman and a man, and black people and Hispanics represented, things could move again. But we don't do it that way. And we need to just be a royal family. And this is where it gets pretty powerful. Because again, it just all comes down to truth and trust, and a man and a woman, and parents and children. And if everybody just treats everybody like they're each other's parents, like I'll look after you like you're my child, and you look after me like I'm your child, we'll do the best. And so there's a way, believe it or not, to solve peace in the Middle East and fix the stock market and do everything really fast. Now there's groups on Facebook, goSOULfirst on Facebook and goSOULfirst on LinkedIn. And there's about, 10,000 people in the groups, and that's the best place to sort of be a part of it right now.
Okay. And goSOULfirst is actually, I have looked into it, and it's actually, it makes perfect logical sense. And in a sense, you could say in general, it's really all about trusting your inner guidance, your connection with a higher power, and then letting that guide you rather than necessarily logic and your mind. Okay.
It's a knowing. And when you take that leap of faith, it's literally like, it's really just the difference between being a superhero, like LeBron James and the rock stars, like they're going soul first, but the politicians and the professionals, they're not. And so what I'm telling you is it's not safe to go soul first, though, because we don't know what truth is, and we really don't know what trust is. Trust is not something that you say you have, and then when things get tough, you lose. I mean, if you want to solve peace in the Middle East, it's simple. You just, first of all, like the Jews need to admit their mistakes, just like the Pope's admitting the church's mistakes and people are loving them. The Jews were just wrong about Jesus. He was he was a Jew, he was a king, and like they should just admit it and, fix their story. And America isn't who we say we are. But once you admit it, you start fixing your story and people believe you again. So if you wanted to solve peace in the Middle East, just tell the Jews, be Judeo-Christians, like put things back together and give the Palestinians whatever they want. Just give them what they want. However, make them look you in the eye and sign a contract. They will, on the lives of their children, they are responsible for keeping things safe. And you have to be able to trust them. And you literally, if you can't trust them, it's worthless. But once you sort of put out that fire, and then you can put out the fire with Russia, and people can start trusting each other, we're not even in those stories anymore, Kerry. That's really what I'm about. The only reason I was going crazy on my story is because I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm kind of like the spirit of truth. And if you know your story, even if you're homeless, like I don't have any money, but like I sort of have the keys to the universe, and that's kind of the joke. So, like, I'm really...
Okay, but wait, slow down. So What happened when you got, why did you get arrested? Like you said, you got arrested. What was that for?
Well, I mean, it's because I never got arrested until my crazy wife, who's kind of like from a Jewish mafia family, called the cops. I don't know who would do that. She's from Canada and I'm like a local LA boy, but she didn't. But she was really trying to help me because in some sense, like that's my record. She said I was like choking her and crazier. Like I got videotapes of me telling her to be sweet and telling her to be nice. And then when she's nasty, asking her to leave. And then she leaves a bunch of messages saying, if you don't take me back, if you don't call me back, I'm going to call the police. And so she really just helped me set up the system. All I'm doing is that I get arrested on purpose now because that's the only place you can document the system doing something wrong. I make movies of everything I'm about to do. I never commit a crime. I never make threats, but I sort of know how to catch the system, and I'm like David, and I'm the best and the brightest of my generation, and I've been arrested and wasted 12 years when I could have been saving the world. So I got the transcripts of a 700-page court case where I say I own the city of Beverly Hills, but I want to give it back, and that there's no truth. Perjury is either a crime or it isn't. They don't know what's true, and they don't know what's false.
Okay, but wait one second.
Kerry, that's all that matters. If you don't know the truth and you don't have trust, you have nothing, because we're going to end up with the whole universe blowing up. If we screw up this time, if we don't get our story straight right, the whole universe is going to go. We're like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and all that's going to be left is truth and trust. And I'm sweet and I love everybody, but I've been screwed around for 15 years. We're out of time. We haven't learned anything in 15 years, but we can be the best. It's not the people's fault. It's that damn system. We're like a bunch of...
Okay, slow down. I want people to know that, first of all, you made all I saw was one movie that you made, right, of your life story, right? Did you make 5. Another one since then?
Yeah, there's 5.
Really?
Yeah, and they're all, I have the whole story. Like that.
But are the 5 available for people to watch? Because I want to recommend that people watch your movie, because I think it was very, very well done and very unusually shot. He takes a lot of poetic license and he does what he wants, but it's very sort of cinema verite, if people understand that terminology. It's that kind of thing where you're actually seeing it happen in real time. Back, whenever he was filming it. And so the first one is available, right? Are the other ones also available on the same website?
I'm literally going to go out with a press release calling all superheroes and put all the movies out on the internet, but I'll give them to you right after this, because the crazy thing is I was never trying to make a movie. I just knew that something weird. I never was, Kerry. I just knew that something magical was happening, and those coincidences that turn out to be sort of God, were happening, and I just filmed it all. And 10 years later, I never edited anything. I opened up all the 200 tapes I never look at, and 5 movies popped out of it. And it was like I was Superman, and that was like the Crystal Palace. Like, what I'm telling you is we're all superheroes. But I've been a little ahead of my time, and I've been like an athlete and an artist and stuff. So I'm no better than anybody else, but I'm a storyteller. And I hate talking about it, but I don't mind thinking your audience thinking I'm crazy, because I do have the videos, and I do have all these famous people, and I do have all of these things to prove I am who I say I am. And if all that other stuff was true, why would I be lying about this? You see, the thing is, because God in the universe doesn't happen in English and doesn't use cash, it's like we can't lock people up for the way they talk and that they have no money. Like, there's something so wrong about that. It's like there's nothing about talking and money that has anything to do with truth. So it's the lawyers. The lawyers are the worst thing on planet Earth. They don't know anything about truth. They divide and destroy everything they touch. Nobody should pay a lawyer ever again. Pick up a video camera and film stuff and just go show it to the judge. Do not hire lawyers. I'm so against lawyers.
Okay. So at this moment, you did win several lawsuits, but you made money, you said, and then you lost all the money. Why, if you actually worked at Goldman Sachs, wouldn't you have been smarter about your money?
Oh, I needed to lose all the money. The money sort of was like the worst thing for me. Like, I always just had a dream. And when I wanted to be on the ski team, money didn't make me a great skier.
Right.
Money never did anything.
I'm just curious, but why did you lose your money? Do you know?
Yeah, I did it to myself, because when I had my dream and I had my story and my reputation, I never thought about money. And then I lost all of that, and all I did was have money. and it got me really scared. When I lost my story and I had millions of dollars, I just wanted more money. But the minute I threw all my money away, because then it wasn't holding me paralyzed anymore. And then I got back to my story. Once I didn't have the money, I was fearless again, and I got my story. So this whole thing is like, I want to save the world without money. I'm worth a lot of money. This story, those movies, there's nothing but money in my future. But if I was rich yesterday and going to be even richer tomorrow, what's today but a snapshot? I just have fun. If I had kids, I wouldn't do it. But like, I sleep outside sometimes. I don't eat for days. Like, it's all part of the story. It's a story-driven world. That's what I'm telling you. Your Project Camelot, it's like, we're all on a journey to be the kings and queens of our story.
Okay. But at this moment, are you working for money in any way?
I've got a lawsuit against, like, the state of California, the city of Beverly Hills, doctors. Like, that lawsuit is worth a lot of money. But, like, I haven't been able to do it because I've been dealing with a bunch of other stuff and trying to do my goSOULfirst. I mean, I literally, I don't have too much pride to sort of ask for money or ask people for a room. So if anyone sort of wants to help me save the world, like, we're not doing it for money. But today I went down to Long Beach. There's a place called The Village, and they sort of help homeless people. And I might go stay there, but I'm going to bring my camera because, they need a story. What makes Jesus so great is he's got a great story. And we all been telling it. But you know what? Leave Jesus alone. His stories, we need to have our own stories. The universe doesn't really care, even if it's Hitler or Osama bin Laden. They just want something to happen. They just want us to be a story. So what we need to do is sort of kind of just realize, in some sense, we're lucky to still be here. Like, we sort of saved the universe, but we're not as good. There could have been an apocalypse. But instead of thinking about that, let's just sort of come up with what's worth dying for. I will stop people from lying. I will stop husbands and wives from going to court. A husband and wife need to settle.
But let me ask you, because you're obviously such a talented guy, why don't you just go back and work in the entertainment business and become a producer again? You could do that, right?
Oh, in a million years, I'm going to do that. I got so many stories. They're all going to come to me because I love Steven Spielberg. I love James Cameron. But when you're making movies for $500 million, nobody can do that. I'm doing it, Kerry. I made a movie about me finding God. It's a home movie when a monkey building his bridge to heaven. And if one monkey can do it and make a movie, all the monkeys can do it. So I want to shut down the internet and teach people how to tell their story. When you get a camera and it's telling your story in your body, mind, and soul, like every hit movie, every hit book has the same ingredients that are in God and the universe, and they're the dimensions, and it's all mathematical. So when I teach you how to tell your story, it's your path to enlightenment, and it's your path to your company becoming the next Apple, and a path to your country becoming as great as America once was. So I'm sitting at the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and there's not going to be an entertainment business because I'm going to sort of change all of that. I would never go back because it's a tree that's been chopped and it's already dead. It just doesn't know it yet. We're living in a corpse. This whole story is over.
Okay. All right. Now, I have a couple people that want to ask you questions. We don't have a whole lot of time left, so would you mind if I asked you the questions they're giving me here?
I would be the happiest person if you shut me up and I listen to great people's questions.
Okay. So one of the people want to know, have you studied the Kabbalah, and if so, who with? Who taught you?
I've studied the Kabbalah my whole life. I studied at the Kabbalah Center. I must have read 500 books. I studied everything. We all need to study all the religions. It's like Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha. They're like the Beatles. Each one of them's like a rock star, but we didn't have rock stars back then. But each one of them sort of makes up the band. So we all need to be masters of all the religions. But the religion thing is sort of over now. Now we're all sort of human computers. That's what this is. Like, I'm a human computer. I can literally fly around the universe. What I want to do, Kerry, is I want to make LA and the United States sort of like the guardians of the galaxy. Like, if the people just don't want to be superheroes and they just want to live a normal life, that's fine. But superheroes aren't perfect. They're just super. So I'll take all the fallen superheroes. I'll take the Olympians and Michael Phelps and Lance Armstrong, and we'll start over, and we're just going to sort of do it differently. We're just better than this system. And so we can't all do that. But like, I know these cosmic codes and I don't know who else knows them, but even the spiritual people, what happens is once you're sort of invested in needing to be right and making money on it, it sort of stops you. So the spiritual people are like a little ways across this bridge to heaven, stopping to sell us stuff, and God bless them. But like, they're really slowing us down. You don't want to be right. You want to be wrong. When you're wrong, that's when the miracle's in. That's when you learn. That's when you advance. Like, I reinvent myself every day. I try to be wrong. I try to sound crazy. I'm just practicing talking to you and doing it in a silly way because when I do it to the president, I got to have it right. So I'm always practicing doing it wrong.
All right. Okay. Let's see. There's another question here, which is somebody who thinks you're related to an ex-president of the CBOE. I don't know what that stands for, but does that make sense to you? Larry Rosenberg?
It's like a Wall Street thing, but I'm not connected to him.
You're not connected to Larry Rosenberg?
No.
Okay. Another person was saying that has to do with bloodlines. So you don't think it has to, your bloodline is not the last name of Rosenberg, you think it's just not, what do you think? It's not connected?
No, I know who I am. I'm David. I'm King David sort of come back. I know I am. Like, I can prove it to you and show it to you. And this is Excalibur is gematria, and the system, I caught the system. I killed the system. Like, when I go to court, I'm putting them on trial. Like, they should be scared. When I go to court, something's about to happen. Like, I literally turned in the Bible to the judge and said, I'm Messiah. What are you going to do about it? And it's on the record. The reason I get arrested all the time is it's on the record. You can't.
Okay. But how did you win your lawsuits? Did you have lawyers fight them for you, or did you go to court?
No, I'm a story. What's lost? It's about storytelling and truth.
No. I'm just saying on a practical level, because people hear you talking here, and you sound a little disconnected, and I'm just wondering who won the lawsuits for you. How did you win those?
Well, this was great. My father had never hired a lawyer in his life, and he just didn't believe in any of that. But my stepmother sort of had all this lawyer come in. When my father couldn't speak, he signed his name in an X, and she sort of changed his will and did all this stuff and acted like he did it when I had all the videotapes of him not even being able to talk. But it's all about the difference between the microscope and the macroscope. In the 2-year chart, she thought she knew what she was talking about, and she thought she knew her story. But all of a sudden, I'm pulling out the 70-year chart where my dad hates lawyers, and it's like on the 70-year chart, it can't be false. And that's what I'm doing with me. My crazy ex-wife is helping me because I set her up in 2012 because they can think I'm crazy. They can think I've never done any of those things. I got a resume like nobody on this planet. And so, it's all a trick. I create my own story. Before I go get arrested, I make a movie about what I'm going to do, what they're going to think, what's going to happen. Okay. And when they call me crazy, it's like I'm just marking the spot. Like I said, yes. I don't really speak. But the minute somebody betrays me or goes from the truth, I mark the spot. But I'm not trying to hurt anybody. It's just turning out that I put out these beautiful press releases about exactly what God is and exactly what we need to do. But nobody listens. It's like we're all addicted to these negative stories.
Okay, well, we're giving you a chance at this moment for people to listen. So I just want you to be clear. Now, somebody's asking you about cosmic codes. What do you think about that?
That's exactly what this is. And that's why I can tell you we're not in sync. If America's supposed to be in sync with the cosmic codes, that's our divine destiny. And for us to do that, we need men and women together leading this world and leading this country, and we don't kill people. See, that's the whole thing. We're not in our story. And these crazy politicians saying impeach him and he's the world's worst president, well, they should go to Canada because they're just destroying everything. Unless it's almost like if you call out everybody, in some sense, Obama is the worst president because he could have done so much more. He's the first black president, and he's supposed to change everything, but he needs the answers. So you have to call them all out, and you have to say, Sarah Palin, maybe you're trying to help us, but there's nothing about you that's presidential. You're a woman, and you're sort of funny, but you're not presidential, and that's why we can't trust you. But if you said, you know what? I don't have that experience, and I could be a good vice president, but I'm not ready to be president. In that moment, she had become presidential, and we could trust her. You have to sort of call people out. You
right.
have to,
Because she would be honest in that moment.
You see, the thing is, none of us have a story. Either the people that are doing great stuff, like LeBron James, he's the king.
We are at the end of our hour here. I'd love to have you back again in the future. Okay, Paul. And so we'll arrange that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You want to say your website one more time?
I just want to say that I'm a really calm, sweet person, but I'm all wound up, and I'm sorry for ambushing Kerry. I'm sorry for being obnoxious, but please.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Thank you so much, Paul.
I want to change the world with no money in one day with me. I need your help.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.